You know, I was just thinking, I wonder what prevents more people from going out and chasing their dreams and living the life they really want to live. I think based on all the comments and emails I get, I would guess that probably one of the biggest reasons more people don't chase their dreams, do the things they love, get out and explore the world is because either they're afraid to do it alone, they're embarrassed to go do it alone, or maybe they just don't know how to get started doing things alone. And for that reason today, I'm going to answer one of the most frequently asked questions I get about my life, and that is, why do I travel solo? And in answering that question about my life, what I'm really hoping is to give all of you, especially those who aren't living your life to the fullest because you're alone, I hope to give you some food for thought, some inspiration, some motivation to maybe start making some changes in your life so that you won't let being solo prevent you from living the life that you want to live. Friendlies, I'm Carolyn and welcome back to my life. Today's video I'm excited about. It's just another topic about independence and motivation and free living that I love talking about, and it's probably not going to be a short video because I think that there's a lot to this subject that I want to cover, and like anything important in life, I don't think it can be summed up in a few minutes, and I don't think there's a quick fix, and I don't think there's a magic pill. And I just hope that you'll be able to glean some inspiration and some motivation to help you achieve your goals and your dreams in life. What is preventing you from doing the things you love? Whether that's travel, whether that's living in an RV, whether that's hiking or backpacking, or whether it's just going to a museum on a Sunday afternoon alone, or going to your favorite restaurant, or going out for coffee, or going bowling, or going to a movie. Are you letting being alone prevent you from doing the things that you love? For a long time, I let being alone prevent me from doing the things I like, including going to movies, including going out to eat, and especially hiking and traveling. And it took a lot of years and a lot of build-up and a lot of baby steps to get me to the point where I could start doing things alone. Today I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I travel alone, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how you too can start doing the things that you love, even if that means doing them solo. First of all, and I've said this before in other videos, I think there is a huge stigma in our society about being alone. There's all this pressure to be coupled. You have to get married, you have to be in a relationship, you have to have a family. I mean, you know, that's kind of what the norm in our society is, right? That all goes with the American dream. The house, the car, the career, the 2.5 kids. Well, I don't think that that fits everybody. And this pressure to not be alone and this shame around being alone, according to Psychology Today, is even greater for women. Why is it greater for women? Because who wants to be an old spinster? And while we think that might be a dated term, it is very much applicable to today. The old spinster, right? I mean, just look at me. The fact that I'm 50 years old, the fact that I choose to be alone, the fact that I'm independent. All you have to do is read the comments on my videos to see that I must be a man hater because I don't want a man in my life, or I don't have a man in my life. And so there's still a lot of pressure, especially on women, to be in relationships. And in fact, for many women, this pressure to be in relationships means that we are willing to do almost anything to be in a relationship. How many of you can relate to that? That certainly was my life for most of my life, probably until I got actually even after my divorce when I was dating. I thought it was my job, my responsibility, my mission in life to get a man that literally, I say what I've said before, is I literally sold myself out. I would constantly sell myself out just to have a man in my life. And that meant not standing up for myself, that meant not standing up for what I believe, that meant keeping my mouth shut, that meant dumbing myself down because maybe people were intimidated by me, not speaking my truth, or taking on the role of caretaker, and just, you know, a lot of the things that we women do because we feel like anything is better than being alone.
Stay with me.
And learning to be alone is a long, hard process. I don't think it just happens overnight. Learning to be alone is not about filling your life with hobbies and distractions, or, you know, in my case, a lot of the negative things. I was so ashamed, I think, and so uncomfortable with my own aloneness for so many years that I drank too much, I ate too much, I did too many drugs to really just take me away from my reality. No, that is not what being alone is about. Being alone is learning how to be comfortable in and celebrate your independence and your aloneness. I'm not ashamed at all of being alone. I'm actually pretty proud of it, that I no longer had to buy into what society tells me I should be, and I'm able to celebrate my life and live it on my terms, my way. I was thinking about making this video, and I found it really interesting when I thought about explorers. When you think about the history of explorers and exploring, who comes to mind? Christopher Columbus, Magellan, Kerouac, more modern times, right? John Muir. There are very few examples of women explorers in our culture. A lot of people say that women aren't adventurers. Women are meant to stay home, take care of the family, take care of the kids, and that we're not adventurers. And that's why we don't do things like this more. Well, I'm going to challenge that. Go to Wikipedia and Google women explorers, and there is a long, long, long list of women explorers that we've never heard of. Sure, there's a few on there that we've heard of, and there are many, many more men explorers and adventurers than we have heard of. We all heard of Calamity Jane, who was born in 1852 and who was a frontierswoman and a scout. You know why she is famous? Because of her friendship with Wild Bill Hickok. She wasn't famous on her own, even though she was a very independent and very talented scoutswoman. Her claim to fame, she became famous because women just didn't become famous for such things, but she became famous for being a friend with Wild Bill Hickok. That's just one example of how it was really difficult for women to become known for their adventurous side, for their exploring nature, because it just wasn't accepted. In fact, there is a woman who circumvented the globe, but she had to disguise herself as a man to do it. Catch it, put it in a jar. To Harriet Chalmers Adams, who was born in 1875, and she explored and photographed South America, Asia, and the South Pacific. There's Sophia Dannenberg, who was the first African-American woman to summit Mount Everest. There are tons of examples of women adventurers and explorers. For some reason, their names just aren't as popular as the men who did them. I bring this up because these women are great examples of women who butt the system, right? They didn't live by the norms of their times. These women who were born in the 1800s who really heard women don't do things like that. Women are supposed to stay home. Women are weak, right? So I bring these women up and I bring this example up because just because we don't always hear about it, it's not part of our everyday conversations, doesn't mean they're not out there. And if they did it, you can do it too. There's nothing special about the women who accomplish things other than they're curious, maybe they've got a little bit of a rebellious streak, you know, and their independence. But their independence didn't come overnight. It came by taking small chances and going out into the world and doing things on their own, one baby step at a time. So that brings me to the question, why am I a solo woman traveler? Why am I living in my RV alone? The biggest reason I do things alone is because I finally decided at some point, why wait? If I sit around waiting for the right person to come along, and whether that's a romantic partner or a friend, if I sat around waiting to find the right person to do things with, I could be waiting until the cows come home. Sure, you know, in my life I have had friends and romantic partners that I enjoy doing things with, but you know, I'm gonna disclose a little bit here. This may not come as a surprise. I'm a little relationship challenged, and a lot of that does have to do with my background, and relationships just don't come easy for me. And although I've done a lot of work on myself and I'm trying to get better at relationships, the fact is it's a lifelong process in learning how to attach to people and learning how to feel comfortable with people. When you come from such an abusive, neglectful background as I did, relationships are just very challenging for me. What that has meant for me, and that brings me to number two what that has meant for me in a lot of cases is my picker is off. How many of you can relate to that? I just had a conversation with somebody on this, on comments, I think. My picker is way off. I pick the wrong people. I have always picked the wrong people. And there's a lot of psychological reasons for that. Again, my upbringing, maybe not learning how to trust my gut, or not knowing who I am, and not knowing what's acceptable in my life and what's not acceptable in my life. But my picker is way off. And that means that I pick the wrong people. I pick people who drain me rather than lift me up, and who, you know, just aren't a fit for me for whatever reasons. And maybe I have too high expectations of people. There have been some women in my life who, you know, I loved very much. And I think in the end, maybe I just had unrealistic expectations. I think also the introvert in me, I don't do like superficial relationships. I don't do small talk. And it took me a long time to realize that. And so for me to have a relationship maybe with an extrovert maybe isn't necessarily right, you know, going to work for me, because they draw their energy on other people. And so maybe then in that relationship, I end up feeling drained because they're drawing that energy off of me in a one-on-one situation. So for me, traveling alone has really just been about not settling. I'm not going to settle for people who drain me. How many of you can relate to that? You've got friendships or relationships that every time you spend time with them, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong. I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with the other person. It's just that we maybe don't mesh the way maybe we would like a relationship to mesh. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the people that I have had relationships with. Well, that's not true. Some of the people I've had relationships with, there are serious things wrong. But not the friendships. I've had a lot of really wonderful friendships in my life. It's just that in the end they didn't work for me. That we didn't mesh, that our personalities weren't, it wasn't working out for me. It wasn't replenishing me. It wasn't filling me up. It wasn't just giving me what I'd hoped, I think, to get out of a relationship. And like I started to say, you know, I don't do superficial, I don't do small talk. And so, you know, I am not a person to have a million friends. A few close friends is all I need. And so by not settling, that has meant that I just by the nature of not settling, I am alone a lot. So even in my 20s, I'd want to go to a movie, and I didn't have anybody to go to a movie with. And I had to learn to go to the movies by myself. And in the end, still to this day, going to a movie in the middle of the afternoon alone is one of my favorite things to do. There's just comfort and ease and solace for me to just sit and be alone. And again, maybe this has to do with my upbringing, or maybe it has to do with the introvert in me. I just feel this obligation to another person to take care of them. Are you okay? Should I be talking more? Should I be talking less? Am I chewing too loud? Am I moving too much? I know. Maybe some of you can relate to that, but this is my reality. This is what it is. And so in my 20s, I had to learn to go to the movies by myself. And a good way, and this is a good baby step for anyone who wants to start learning to do things alone, don't go on a date night. Don't go on a Friday or a Saturday night. Go in the middle of the week if you can by yourself. It's less crowded, you know, there's not as many people around, there are other solo people there, so you're going to feel less self-conscious. Same thing with going out to eat alone. Maybe start at a Starbucks instead of a restaurant. And if you are going to go to a restaurant alone, don't go on date night. Don't go on Valentine's Day. You know, go out to lunch. Take something to read, or these days we have our phones, so your face is probably always in your phone. And once you start taking baby steps and going to restaurants alone, going out to eat alone, then you can move on to bigger things. Go camping alone. I remember the first time I went camping at a campground alone, and it was a little weird, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. And so once you start getting out there and getting your feet wet with baby steps and doing things alone, then you can start building on that and doing more things alone. You can camp alone, you can go hiking alone, you can go backpacking alone, you can travel the world alone, and then maybe eventually you can live in an RV alone. That's why I travel alone. I was sick and tired of sitting around waiting for somebody to do things with, because the way my life has gone, that's probably just, it may not ever happen. And now I can pick and choose. Which is beautiful. I have friends now, and it's like, okay, I want some company, and I'm going to go camp with these friends who understand me. They get me, and I can go camp with them for a week, 2 weeks, And then I can be like, all right, I'm leaving tomorrow. And they're like, okay, see ya. And we might see each other 6 months from now. We might see each other next year. And we pick up where we left off. And those are the kind of friendships that work for me. So having this free, independent life, I'm able to now make choices that work for me. There's a line in a movie that I love that I'll never forget. George Clooney, called, I think it's Up in the Air. The line in the movie is, I think toward the end, and he says, sometimes you have to completely empty out the backpack so you know what's supposed to go in it, so you know what to put back in it. And that really resonated with me. That's really kind of what my life over the last several years, maybe decade, has been about. Taking out all the crap that doesn't belong in the backpack and slowly, mindfully adding things back in that belong there, that make sense. And that's where I'm at today. So, and that means people too. I'm mindfully and deliberately thinking about the people that I allow into my life and making sure, kind of taking a look at myself and saying, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Am I losing myself in this relationship? Because I often lose myself in relationships, not only with men, but with women friendships too. And these are all the things that I have been able to discover about myself by being alone. Being alone is not about filling your life with so many distractions that you forget you're alone. Being alone is about really enjoying, celebrating, and mindfully being in that aloneness and really being okay with it. I didn't want to wait anymore for the right person to come along. I'd be waiting until I couldn't do anything, you know? I mean, I'm 51 years old. I'm not getting any, am I 51? 51, I think. I'm not getting any younger. And I was sick and tired. I wasn't going to sit around and wait. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for somebody to go to Europe with me. And then, you know, because I had to have somebody, you know, let's just say that I didn't want to do it alone, and it was like, I can't do this alone, I have to do it with somebody, and then I ended up inviting the wrong person. That would have been 3.5 weeks of hell, traveling with the wrong person, right? And I would rather just do things alone. And the second part of that is just learning to not settle. I'm not going to settle for the wrong people in my life anymore. I don't need it. I don't need to be tied to somebody anymore. Yeah, I need friendships, and since I lost Capone, I realize that more than ever. I do have a few people in my life that I count on, that do lift me up and support me, and I support them, and they mean the world to me. The final reason I love traveling alone is just for the freedom of it. I don't have to wait for deal with somebody else's idiosyncrasies, and they don't have to deal with mine. I don't have to worry about how my idiosyncrasies are affecting someone else. And again, because of just who I am, I constantly worry about the other person that I'm with. And, you know, maybe that's the codependency that I grew up with. Actually, it is. But we don't want to get into that. Ever since I was a little girl, it was my responsibility to take care of other people. And that doesn't go away overnight. I can't just say, okay, that now. I can't be, it's getting better, but I can't be with another person without thinking, how can I make their experience crazy? You know, this is one of the things I'm working on through therapy. You know, and speaking of therapy, we haven't talked about it in a while. If any of this does resonate with you, this took a lot of years of good therapy and hard work for me. And if you think that you might want to have somebody to talk through some things with, go ahead and check out BetterHelp. I'm going to put the link again. A few people have written asking me about therapy again recently. And BetterHelp is great because it's online, so it's completely anonymous. It's extremely inexpensive. It's a lot less than you're going to pay another therapist. You can do it by text or Skype or by phone, or even by email. So you know, this stuff isn't easy, and that's why this is a long video. This stuff is not easy. This stuff is hard work, but stop letting being alone prevent you from doing the things that you love to do. But yeah, I love the freedom of being able to come and go as I want, and in fact, the friendships that I do now invite into my life understand that. They understand the come and go because they're the same way, the fluidity of our lives. And it's like I said, okay, it's time for me to go. I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. Okay, well, I hope to see you around. And that's just the way it goes. And I'm really grateful for the friends that I do have in my life today. And I think that's another thing. I think once you do become independent and learn how to do things on your own, you're going to be attracting more of what fills you and energizes you and makes you happy. What are you going to do to start chasing your dreams if being alone is what's preventing you from doing the things you love? Again, start with baby steps. I'm going to challenge you right now. What's the first thing you're going to do alone to get you out of that comfort zone? And again, you know what? It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, especially as a woman. Be proud that you're alone. Be proud, because you know why? That means you're not settling anymore. That means that you are not just letting anybody in your life because you're so afraid of being alone. And go out in the world and celebrate that independence, and go out and celebrate your aloneness, because you know what? You've worked hard all your life. You've taken care of a lot of people, and now it's your turn to celebrate yourself and celebrate your independence. So start small. Go to Starbucks today and sit in Starbucks and have a cup of coffee by yourself. And then move up to maybe a lunch, and then maybe move up to a dinner. I can now go to dinner on a Friday night. I don't care. It took a while for me to get there. I can go to a movie on a Friday night. I do believe I even went out to eat in a restaurant on Valentine's Day. I think I did. This sounds familiar. I don't know why or when, but I just really remember thinking I wanted to go out to eat, and I'm like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, and I'm like, oh, but I think I did it. And so just start small and then work up to something bigger. I hope that gave all of you men and women food for thought, and I hope that you'll stop letting being solo prevent you from going out into the world and doing the things that you love. If you enjoyed this video and you want more of my heart-to-heart talks or food for thought or whatever you want to call it, and more travel, fun, and adventure, and all kinds of interesting stuff, hopefully, be sure to subscribe below. Click over here to join Patreon, where we have a really tight-knit community, and we talk a lot, about a lot of these topics and more. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. Mwah.